Welcome to Two Bees in a Pod. I am Bilola.
And I am B. Leonga, and this is a podcast about immigrant experiences in the U.S., sharing our perspectives on various topics,
Including straddling cultures, fitting in, staying connected, learning and unlearning the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Welcome back to another episode. This week we are reviewing our September book of the month, which is My Sister, the Serial Killer by Oyinkan Braithwaite. And I have not finished any of our books as fast as I finished this one. Like, it was such a good read. An anxious read that, like, I couldn't put it down. I could not put this book down. Like, it was so good. And again, just to remind the listeners, we were supposed to read this back in April, but we went on break. So when we came back, like, we never reviewed it. But yeah, okay. So our icebreaker today is really in line with the theme of the book, right? And the question is, if your sister called you after committing a murder, would you? I'm giving you 4 options. A, help her cover up the evidence and dispose of the body. Tell her you're going to pretend this conversation never happened, hang up the phone, and ignore all subsequent communication from her. C, advise her to turn herself in because it's the right thing to do. Or D, you turn her in yourself because you're not about to get dragged into her mess.
I have to go with A, mainly because if roles were reversed, she would do the exact same thing. And also because growing up, my father always said, no matter what happens, come back and tell me. Even if you kill somebody, we'll figure out what to do. I don't know what they will figure out part of it meant. And I know that he listens. So maybe, Daddy, you will tell me what the figure out was supposed to do. But I know that if I was got in some mess and I called my sister, she'll probably cuss me out as she's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But she'll do it. I don't know how useful I would be for her because I'm a fear, but
Right. But okay, so let me ask you this. Is your sister capable of murder? You only have one sister, I have 4. So is your sister capable of murder? Like, if she called you, I mean, of course anybody would be shocked, but once the shock wore off, would you be like, yeah, I see it?
If she called me, I would say whoever it is, they deserved it.
I like that answer, and again, I have 4 sisters. They're not, violent to my knowledge, but I would say that under the right circumstances, they're all capable of murder, right? They might use different techniques. Everybody will have their own flavor. I'll not, put anybody on the spot, but I can imagine the techniques that each of them would use.
I can't think of. So here's the thing. I always tell people that you cannot really bully me or insult me because, like, do you know who I grew up with? Like, my sister's tongue is to the point. There are days where if we're talking to my dad and he's going downstairs, he's like, "Please, they're guests." So she's not a violent person. She's a pretty even-keeled person. But so if she was in that situation, I would just know that it was the person who was at fault.
With you, right? And I would also do option A. I would help her cover up the evidence and dispose of the body because, first of all, yes, if my sister calls me and tells me that she murdered somebody, especially if that person's a man, I'm sorry, but I'm not asking too many questions. He deserved it. And my condolences to his family. May his soul rest in peace. But I already know, like, sis, you can tell me the story.
Why are we dashing? I've told you how I feel about this rest in peace. The peace you did not give to people on earth. You don't get to have it in the after. Imagine now something happens to Didi. Did he give people peace when he was on earth?
That's true. May he never rest in peace. But yeah, I would definitely help her cover up the evidence. But I feel like I would be the opposite of you because I would want to take control to make sure that it gets done properly and that we don't leave any stone unturned and that we don't leave anything that can trace the crime back to us. I would be too involved.
No. I'm definitely going to, oh my God, somebody's coming. But I'll also be thinking 5 steps ahead. Like, if the cops are to come, they'll come from this direction. So let's do it this way. But if I hear a footstep, I'll probably piss on myself just again.
Yeah, and like, I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts. I watch true crime. So I feel like I'm pretty knowledgeable about the mistakes that people make that lead them to eventually getting caught. So yeah, I would be, definitely making sure that we go through methodically. Okay, have we eliminated this risk, this risk, this risk? Yeah.
Yeah, I think at that point I'll have to commit, go back to my first 48
Mm-hmm.
days and like remember all the things because obviously you don't want to Google. So
Oh no. Okay, and a tip. Okay, this for entertainment purposes only. Oh, I know my FBI agent is watching me through my webcam. This is for entertainment purposes only. When you're committing a crime, for God's sake, leave your phone behind. Leave your watch behind. It doesn't matter if you put it in airplane mode.
I
Leave
know,
any
yeah.
any device that has internet connectivity, that has phone connect. Leave it behind. Print out or write down the driving directions. If you need directions to get to a place, do not take your phone. If you have a GPS in your car, don't look up the place. Like, don't even take your car to begin with. Like,
See, this is my problem with these new age cars, man. Like you need a car with manual windows. No,
yes,
nobody's GPS is
that
tracking
means
that.
AM FM radio. That it doesn't even have the aux this thing to connect. Like the
You need
oldest
a
car.
flip. You need a flip phone. A flip phone from Metro PCS.
You need a burner. Definitely
Exactly. But that's what I said. If you either get a flip phone or if you can get your hand on a Nokia 3310.
go primitive, okay? Go primitive. That's how they be catching people. Come on. You have to think like a criminal.
I know, sometimes I hate when they catch criminals. Like, I'll use scammers, for instance, even though I've told people that we laugh at scammers, but like, scammers kill people, right? You having a heart attack, somebody having a heart attack because they cleared their 401k or their account, that's not to
Mm-hmm.
play with. But as a scammer, you're not embarrassed when you scam like 10,000 and they catch you. Like your mates stealing the millions. How you getting caught?
Listen, but I don't want to like speak too much because I'm very close to the industry, like based on what I do for work. But bro, scammers, y'all really don't be dotting your eyes and crossing your T's. Like you're leaving, there's a lot of room you could tighten up and easily go free. But you guys are just. But you know what the thing is? Have you noticed, like, when you get those scam texts and emails, a lot of them, they have, like, typos. The grammar is kind of all over the place. They're very obvious red flags, right? And they're sending those things out to so many people. So they're putting a very minimal amount of effort so that the kind of person who would miss those red flags is exactly who they're targeting. That's why they don't even bother. You know what I mean? They don't even take the extra 2 minutes to proofread their email because it's like a mass, they're throwing out a very wide net, and the fish that I don't want to call them dumb because they're victims, but the fish that are unwitting enough to get trapped in that kind of loose ass net are the ones who would easily, be separated from their funds. Yeah.
And I mean, like, please, at the end of the day, I don't believe that you can steal from Uncle Sam. It could be 10 years they'll catch you. Because many years ago, I read about this guy in Dallas. He was doing like some mortgage fraud. I will never forget his name, Toby Chuku. He was doing some fraud. No, because they said he was so bad that when he would go to the strip club, right, the strippers would call their friends to say, he is here
Toby's
today.
in the house.
You need to come back to work. At least to be in there.
Girl,
And all the
get those
girls,
heels and the glitter on. Get
all
down
the
here.
girls, they said he wasn't making it rain, he was making it thunderstorm.
And that's another thing with a lot of scammers. I mean, Hush Puppy is the prime example. Chop your money quietly. No, you want to be doing the most. That's how they caught him.
He ran. No, but this ninja ran. He ran and went to Macau. He lay low for a few years. No, I think he went to Nigeria, but he ended up in Macau. They got his picture from the security cameras and Interpol picked him up maybe 7 years later. All this to say that when you're scamming, enjoy the money because Uncle Sam is going to come and get.
Definitely don't scam Uncle Sam. Listen, the government has very like outdated and their architecture is really not up to date. That's why a lot of people scam them. Their policies and procedures are,
No,
look at
but
all the
he
COVID scams.
he scammed but banks. It was banks that he was scamming. But I'm just
Okay.
saying, like, you scam Uncle Sam, and especially if you don't know the right lawyers with the right loopholes, you are going to go to jail.
Yeah.
It could take 10 years, but you'll go. But as usual, we are very far from our starting
See,
points.
we've gone off on a listen, the tangent. Okay. So the synopsis of our book, again, the title is My Sister, the Serial Killer. And we read this story through the voice of Korede, who is, I mean, think of the most psychotic Virgo that you've ever met. That's who this person is. She's meticulous. Okay, she's a clean freak. She's a nurse, and she, when we meet her in the beginning of the story, she is helping her sister Ayola. I'm just gonna call her Ayo going forward because I don't know if I'm intonating that name correctly.
You
Anyway,
are.
she's helping Ayo cover up, clean up a murder that Ayo has just committed. She has just killed her boyfriend. And as we move further into the story, we find out that this is not the first time that has happened, and it's not going to be the last. Hence the title of the book. So as we learn more about Ayo and Korede, we find out that Ayo's violent tendencies are not the only thing that set them apart. Korede describes Ayo as like this breathtakingly beautiful woman, who, she turns heads everywhere she goes. And Korede, basically, she describes herself as the opposite, right? She's,
Streets.
basically talk about, so she's fugly. I mean, I don't know why she's so hard on herself. That's basically what she's saying in the book.
She just said she was straight. She said she had edges, not curves.
Even so, she described her, but even her face, she describes her face in a very disparaging. I'm like, what's wrong with having small eyes and big lips? Like, she's kind of, there's a lot of colorism and kind of Afro.
A lot.
What do you call it? What do you call that thing where it's like speaking disparagingly about African features, basically. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I don't know what the
because
word
there
is.
was so much emphasis on Ayola's supposed beauty and light skin.
Yes.
And light skin.
She says it repeatedly. Oh, she wore a gold dress, and the way it looked against her skin, like, okay, we've heard now. We've heard.
Yeah.
It's like, damn. Okay. But yeah, so obviously Korede has been dealing with this, these insecurities. I don't know if jealousy is the word that I would use to how she feels towards her sister. She's not jealous of her.
She's not.
She's not. She feels insecure about herself, and she recognizes that her sister is the beauty standard, right? And this, it seems like she's managing it okay until Ayo comes to her work one day and she meets Tade, who is a doctor who works with Korede, and Korede has a huge crush on this guy. Like, he's her dream man, basically. Like, and I felt really bad for her because she was trying to avoid Ayo, like, meeting any of her coworkers, but especially not Tade. She was trying to veer her away. But of course, he sees her and anyway, we'll talk about that in a little bit. And he falls for Ayo, which basically breaks Korede's heart. And not only is basically a man eater, right? In every sense of the word, like she's emotionally a man eater, and physically, obviously, she's killing them.
Yeah. Like, she's emotionally unavailable, and she's also like, something that is really at play here is this first daughter, younger sister dynamic, and like Korede has no choice, so she feels like she has to take care of her sister because she's the eldest. And then Ayola has just leaned into, that's what you're there for. But it's almost like her sister is invisible. Unless she wants her sister to clean up her mess, or she wants something from her sister, you don't get a sense that she has any relationship with her sister beyond what her sister can do for her.
That really, I was kind of confused about that because I kept wanting to give Ayola grace to but I'm like, you're really not a nice person. You're not a good sister. And we also learn as we read on that their father, who has passed away, we'll talk about how he died later, was a very violent and abusive man. Like, he was physically abusive towards their mother and towards the girls. They were terrified of him growing up. So I think that protective, behavior that you're talking about, it was made even worse by what they experienced because Korede felt like, she had to be there. Like, if Ayola, there's a scene where Ayola is getting like whipped,
and she's
caned. Yeah, and Corday comes and stands like, let the cane touch her also. Yeah, so definitely. But as you said, there's definitely that big sister, and the mother doesn't do anything to help the dynamic. The mom.
She's a battered woman
Mm-hmm.
and living in a society where it's very obvious that Ayola is everybody. She's the apple of everybody's eye, right?
Mm-hmm.
Remember when the police are interviewing her and they said the boy was going to break up with her, and they're like, somebody will break up. Like, it was just completely unfathomable to them that
Mm-hmm.
somebody will break up with you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, think about. So I think she too has caved into that and probably harbors her own insecurities, because they also talk about the time where her husband brought the woman into their home and beat her, assaulted her in front of this woman and took her
Yeah,
into their bedroom. So I hope I'm not making excuses for her, but I just think is one of those things in Cameroon where they say better no day.
that's true. I agree. So again, at the beginning of the book, Ayla and Cordy are cleaning up. They're cleaning up Femi, who is Ayla's now dead boyfriend. They're cleaning up his apartment. Ayla has stabbed him, and they take his body and dump in what they call that, the river, Third Midline Bridge.
In the
Is that the?
lagoon. Yeah,
Yes, they dump it in the lagoon. Which this, I think, they had done that to the previous one, right? That's how they disposed of the
probably.
previous
Yeah.
body. I think so. So Femi comes from, seems like a kind of well-known
Wealthy,
family.
influential family. Yes.
So eventually the trail does lead to Ayola because she was dating him at the time, and the police, like Bilola said, the police come to question, Ayola. And this girl, I don't understand her attitude, because Corday is worrying more about what to say to the police more than she who killed the man. Like, it's almost as if she's so confident that she's somebody who has had pretty privilege her
All her
entire
life. Yeah.
life. And she's just like, even the police, she's just so sure that they will believe anything that comes out of her mouth is like honey. It's like music to their ears. Like, she's not even concerned about making up a story to tell them.
But I
Right?
mean, she did. Like, it worked because it almost felt like they were grilling Corey more than they were grilling her. But she
Mm-hmm.
was the girlfriend, and I think they came to them because a neighbor said they saw Ayola with another woman.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, oh, why did Ayola ever mention that her sister was there? But I think that Ayola was confident that it was either one of two things. It was either Pretty Privilege was going to save her, and if shit hit the fan, she was going to blame Korede, and she knew Korede would take the blame for her.
Okay. So, well, that leads us to the first question, right? So, why does Corday continue to cover up for her sister?
First daughter in an African house.
You think that's it? Like, that's just, she feels responsible for her because she's her younger sister?
What else? And it didn't stop. That's the summary, because you can go into the nuance of like their father was abusive and she felt the need to protect her and yada 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 yada. But it all comes down to you're the older sister. And I think it's mentioned a few times where her mother would say, but she's your sister, she's your younger sister. So it's the first daughter in an African household. The end.
Well, do you think she was ever worried that if she stood up to Ayla or just said like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore? So she already helped, remember, the first boyfriend, who I guess they might have been in university
Yeah.
when Ayla killed him. So she helped.
Oh no! So that one they didn't dump his body in the lagoon.
Oh,
That
they
one
burned it.
they burned.
They burned the apartment down. Yes, 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 yes. You're right. Yeah. So I mean, is it possible that it's this kind of thing where, okay, I've been implicated in one, right? If I say I'm not going to help you on the second one, then you can threaten to somehow either pin that first murder on me or implicate me. Like, it's kind of, I'm taking you down with me. Like, you can help me or we can both go down together, kind of thing. Do you think she was worried about that at any point?
No, and I think their childhood plays a big factor into why she would cover, because I think she also part of her, because you see she's always asking her sister, she's always asking Ayola what happened, what did he do, how did it, like trying to make sense of what happened. And I think there were times where she doubted what her sister was saying, but because of the history between them, Ayola killed their dad, because I feel like
that is the one critique I have about this book. I wish they kind of left us just there at the like kind of at 85% without really finishing to tell us that yes, they killed him. It sounds like they did, right?
Yes.
Because it comes to a point where some creepy uncle has come to the house and seen Ayola. The father wants to do a business deal with him.
Oh yeah.
That creepy uncle, basically the dad can see that he wants to marry her, who she's a teenager at the time. This is a big man, and him and his sister are kind of like arranging for Ayla to go and visit that man in his house. Obviously we know what's going to happen there, and Korede's like, absolutely not. And the aunt comes to take Ayola, and Korede like tells her like, well, you will fight me today. So they don't tell us what happened after that, but they imply that when the dad comes home, he's going to show them Pepe. And she makes a statement saying, we're going to do whatever it takes, or something like that, kind of leading the reader to believe that they killed him.
Yeah, they never say it explicitly, but they throw hints here and there where you get, I felt like Ayola killed him, but they never explained. And which, if she did, it also adds to why, because I think that she rationalizes somewhat that, because I think she also said that their father was like the one man who never gave into like Ayola's caprices. Like he treated her the same and did not treat her exceptionally or differently. And so I think some of that is also at play. So knowing that backstory, I think Korede would always have a soft spot for her sister and always feel the need to protect her as the older sister.
Yeah, and I think even that bond with their mother, right? Because they witnessed their mother going through that abuse. So they kind of have this bond, all three of them. And the mom too, I don't, like you said, I just had to give her grace in that story knowing what she went through, but she so obviously favors Ayola. Like she's not even trying to hide it. Like there's a point where, is it Tade comes to the house and Cordy is a really good baker. She has made pineapple upside down cake, and the mom says that she tells him that Ayola made it. Like that girl cannot even boil water.
There was a time they were eating and Korede was upset about something, and so the house help comes to knock at her door to come ask her, like tell her that they're having dinner or lunch. And she just asked like, oh, who sent you? And the house was like, no, nobody. I came to check on. And it gets you the sense like she's there, she takes care of everybody, but nobody could be bothered. Like, hey, we're about to eat. She's not here. Let's check on her. Nope. It was a non-event. But if roles were reversed, I'm certain their mother would be like, hey, where's your sister? You didn't check on your sister before you came to eat. So yeah,
exactly.
That annoyed me.
Me too. So Ayola always gives a reason for attacking and killing her lovers, right? She said that the university guy, I'm forgetting his name now. Somto, yeah. I believe she justified that one by saying he was abusive, right? Like he hit her or something. Femi, same thing.
Yes.
This, who I'm going to call the Dubai uncle, Boyega. First of all, Ayola is like a fashionista, like she's a fashion designer, right? And she has her business. And this is the thing that I don't understand. Like she lied to Korede that she got the money to start the seed money for her business from her YouTube channel, right? But Korede later finds out that it's this sugar daddy who gave her the money to start up her business. And I'm like, why are you lying to your sister? Like this, your sister has literally helped you cover up murders and you're still lying to her about stupid shit like that? It just goes to show her character. You know what I mean? Like, why would you lie? Anyway, so this married man, they go on a trip to Dubai and that's where he meets his end. You know, she poisons him.
What was her reason?
She didn't give a reason for that one because she actually did not admit to Korede that she's the one who killed him. We were just left to assume that she did, because what are the odds? What are the odds, really?
I can't shout, please.
Yeah, so she killed him in a hotel room in Dubai. I don't know what she put in his food. She drugged him somehow. But after she had gone on her shopping spree, after he had taken her on a shopping spree, Then she killed him and came back to Nigeria.
Meanwhile, his wife is there doing hashtag man crush every day.
Listen,
Hashtag bless. What was she celebrating? 10 years of marriage? Like 2 days
something.
or the day before Korede meets Boyega for the first time, his wife is posting anniversary pictures.
I feel like those kind of women, they
They
know,
know. Of
they
course.
know, they know that their man is all over the
Of
place
course.
and sponsoring many people's university education.
Is a philanthropist.
Listen, a cheerful
Yeah,
giver.
no, you have to know.
Yeah, they do. They do. And it's just about keeping up appearances, and they've just like accepted, like, this is my life. Yeah.
I mean, they said that it's better to cry in a BMW than on a bicycle, so.
So, do we believe Ayla that they were abusive to her, like
No.
the men that she killed?
No.
Even the
No.
first one, you don't believe?
No. I think the girl is crazy. She's psychotic or so. She's a sociopath. I really and truly think. Because why is she walking around with a knife?
And that knife is very significant because it is their dad's knife. So that knife, when they were growing up, Corday talks about how it was like was it a Japanese knife? It was some very special artisanal knife, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I
So
now
when visitors
remember.
would come, when visitors would come to the house, he would take it out of the box and show, the visitors. And that's the knife that she is carrying around with her and happens to have it handy whenever these men are getting violent with her, allegedly. And but so obviously, I mean, to me, it's obvious that it's linked to the abuse from her father, right? Maybe she's kind of taking, this is her way of getting revenge by killing these men.
Or maybe if they them raising their voices at her could be
Trigger.
a trigger.
Yeah.
It could be. But I just struggle the way she's so calm about it. She's not frantic. She's not. It's like she was so confident that Corridor will clean up her mess. Because at the start of the book, when we first meet her and she has just killed Femi, there's no, oh my God, she's just sitting in the corner calming. And then even when they find the napkin with blood in his house, she's like, I must have forgotten it there.
Yes, and then Korede even has to tell her, like, hey, your boyfriend has just died, right? You cannot be posting certain things on social media. Give it some time. She was about to go and just be posting her everyday OOTD, all of this, her Dubai trip. Like, Korede had to tell her, like, this is a really, really bad look. You have to wait a little bit.
When Femi's sister comes to their house to ask her, like, what really happened, and she's sort of attacking Korede, and Ayola shows up. First of all, Ayola is mourning her ice cream that she doesn't get to eat more than anything. And it was so like, this is a psychopath. When she asked her, like, have you considered that he's dead? And then she proceeds to comfort his sister. Like, it was just so cold and unmoving and no emotion attached to it. Like, this is not somebody I want to be in the same room with. Thankfully,
Oh,
thankfully she mostly kills men, so I probably won't be her target. But
right.
she was very cold.
Extremely. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like obviously the father abused something. It obviously did something to her brain, and it's weird because it's not like she avoids men, right? You could say
Oh
that,
no.
okay, somebody who has gone through that, like, maybe they just hate all men in general, but no, like, she really loves the attention that she gets. She capitalizes on her
True.
looks. She's very emotionally, like, she toys with them. She makes
Yes.
zero effort, like, and so let's go to Tade, right?
She said something that triggered. I had a classmate in high school. I don't even remember what the argument was. I just remember this boy telling the girl that I go chew you spit them. And that's exactly what Ayola does to those men.
She
She
does.
literally, like, she will break them and discard them, or kill them. She doesn't even discard. She'll kill you when she's done. Because you see it with Tade, where she's like, Tade is boring, but she's there because Tade is literally ready to lay on the floor so she can walk all over him.
I mean, that was kind of a very shocking character development for me, or exposure, right? Because we meet Tade at the beginning, and he's this doctor. They describe how he interacts with patients. He's very kind, attentive, soft spoken. He even talks to Corday about, hey, the way that she should be more patient with the patients. But yeah, like he's a very, he's like a dream guy, the way that Corday is describing him to us. And then he meets Ayola, and
Because a mumu.
it's really a mumu, because they are dating when she goes to
To
Dubai
Dubai.
with Boyega, and he knows, he finds out, and he's literally making excuses for her. She's not even the one making the excuses. He's making the excuses for her. Like, he just wants her back. Like, he's not even angry.
And then when Korede asks him, what do you like about her? He cannot say anything because he does not know her. He knows
Mm-hmm.
nothing about her other than her face is beautiful. And
Mm-hmm.
probably she has hips and ass, but he cannot say she likes this color. Or like Korede was describing, the way she laughs when he knows nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But he's just like, I want to have her. I have to have her. I have to. And I think it's that thing of men and, the desire for a trophy wife or aspiring to have a certain kind of woman that they want to. It's like she's beautiful, but they want the beauty just for themselves. So they want to take her and put in the house in a cage. So they are the only ones who get to look at her. But beyond that, you don't know that. And when they stay in the house, it's like, oh, but she's not like this, but she's not like that. But you never took the time to get to know her.
And she has wrapped Tade around her little finger. Yeah. So, we've said a lot that we don't like about her, but was there anything that you liked about Ayola's character?
I like the fact that she didn't care about men and their emotions. She didn't have time for that.
I
she
like
was
that about her too.
she was just in there to get hers. Now I wish she had left them alive, Boyega had a family. I don't feel like there was a reason for her to kill these men. But I really love the fact that she had no fucks to give about them, their emotions and their feelings. Like Tade was sending fresh flowers, sending this, sending that. I think it was boring
Mm-hmm.
and very
And
unapologetic about it.
and speaking of flowers, right? This was I really like that she did this. So he sends flowers, and she sends a text. I forgot what flowers he sent at first, but she sent a text, and immediately that same day he sent another bouquet of whatever it is. I don't want to misquote, but she might have said, I like hydrangeas or some shit like that. And that same day, to Corade's shock and horror, another delivery was coming, and she's not moved. That, to your point, that's what I like about Ayla. Like, listen, the wickedness that men do, she was giving it right back to them. And she was not moved at all by their gestures.
Nope.
Yeah,
Nope.
but to your point, she should have just chopped their money and left them alive. So yeah, I do like that about that. And it seemed like she was a very skilled fashion designer.
True. Because when they have the memorial service for their father,
yeah, that's true.
and she's like, well, I told him about it. I didn't expect him to show up. Ma'am, this person has been love bombing you. What do you mean by you didn't expect him to show up?
She has no fucks to give. Yeah, I definitely appreciate that about her. But she was so unkind to her sister that it's not. At one point, I thought like maybe she was just like, she lacked self-awareness. But as I got more into the story, I'm like, it's not a lack of self-awareness. She's just really like,
she didn't have social skills. It was she was narcissistic, or she had narcissistic tendencies. It was all about her and what she can get from people and what people can do for her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fuck anybody else's feelings, her sisters included, which is sad because you guys have gone through so much trauma together. Like, why wouldn't you have her back the way that she has yours?
Just her father's daughter.
That's true. Maybe that's the thing that she inherited from him. It's true. That's a generational curse. Maybe we've been looking at it the wrong way. Okay. So, Corday, like I said, she's a nurse. She's meticulous. She's great at her job, what it sounds like. Maybe a little bit mean to her staff, but,
I don't think she's mean. We talked about Cameroonian nurses a few weeks ago. So, I think that she gave because they were all quite who were the ones fighting. You had the ones who were fighting at work. You had the other one whose
Mm-hmm.
shift will be over and she's hanging around either to sell or to gossip. So no, I think she was just very straight laced and not like everything was had to be done by the book to her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And okay, so here's another book review question, right? Korede, who lacks the beauty her sister possesses, believes that, quote, love is only for the beautiful. What does the novel suggest about the power of beauty, the privileges and authority it commands, both on a personal level and in wider society?
I mean, we have answered this. We talk about Ayola and her pretty privilege, where the cops, she's a suspect, yet they're so mesmerized by her, they can't even question her properly. And then
Mm-hmm.
when they're giving their alibi to say he was going to break up with her, they're like they're so taken aback, like, oh my goodness, somebody will break up with you. And because
Mm-hmm.
they're men, they're probably thinking, I would never do that. And that's how she moves through the world at home with her sister and through life. Paradise says like she has never been told no. She's never gotten no for an answer. And it seems largely in part definitely not for her personality. So it's definitely for her beauty.
Yeah, and we've talked about it before, right? On this podcast. There is definitely pretty privilege is a thing. Like more attractive people move through the world easier, right? They do. That's just an unfortunate fact. Like I read a lot of comments on TikTok, like women who say when they lost a significant amount of weight, like the change, like it was such a drastic change in how people treated them. And that's really, really sad. Like it's almost like they went from being invisible to people actually just treating them with common courtesy and smiling and being nice to them. And it's like, really? But yeah, I've heard so many stories like that.
And the wildest thing is that it starts from birth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to call myself light skinned because I'll go with what my friend calls me. I have a friend who says that I'm backlit. As per you know, you have like the main stage lights and the backlighting. She calls me
Girl.
back. When I had my daughter, I got a lot of questions that first week, like, what does she look like? Does she have your complexion? Does she have your
Ooh.
eyes? Yes. Well meaning or not, people did not think about the
Mm-hmm.
implications. But it
Mm-hmm.
was just very strange. Like this a newborn. Then people's look like 10 different things before their faces come in. Like they
Mm-hmm.
start looking like lump of Gary, they progress to other things. For the first couple of months or years, I thought she looked like my sister. But everybody was so fixated. And then that's when somebody was like, oh no, look at her ears. Like, if the color of her ears is what her complexion is going. But it's just like, this is a newborn. Why do we care what her complexion? And she was born in winter, so it wasn't like she wasn't going out or anything. It's cold. There's no sun. Why? And that's how it starts, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because from then you have a newborn baby and people start making like, see that fine skin, don't take her in the sun. She'll get dark. Don't. And it starts from there. And then, then if you're light skinned, I mean, if you're light skinned and not so good looking, you get the light skin pass. And then if you're light skinned and you're pretty, it's just like, and everywhere you go, oh my God, you're so pretty. Oh my God, you're so.
Listen, I just watched a TikTok. This guy, he was, I think the original poster was on Twitter, basically saying a lot of people are missing out on dating baddies because they're blinded by colorism. And it's facts. It's facts.
I mean, it's like those two who said they are no baddies in Atlanta.
Listen, let's go on a little, we'll not go on it, but I'll just make a little sidebar. You people have not learned your lesson. All of the women who are heartbroken about shits and giggles. You people have not learned your lesson about male podcasters. What is that quote? You said you put your trust in a nigga, stupid hoe, how you figure. But yes, how you figure men will disappoint you every time. Like I was disappointed but not surprised.
I've never listened to them. I've seen clips, but I've seen clips. Maybe people, like a lot of their followers came more recently because they've said some wild things.
Maybe
mean,
I never. Again, I don't
I've only
see.
seen them now. Like people are now
I've been
going
seeing
back
them.
to previous. People are going back to like previous. Like before, it seemed very, but people are now digging and like some of. But for somebody, a black person, to say there are no bodies in Atlanta,
But that's not
it
even what
tells.
got them in hot water. Oh. I
It
think people were gonna
started.
give
It
them a pass
started.
for that.
That was what I heard, and I was just like, mm.
No,
But like
people were
when
gonna
when
give them.
when they went on the other dude's podcast, I'm not gonna call
Mm-hmm.
his name, and he's
Yeah.
talking about like, black women aggressive and how the beard is a protection against the stress or whatever, and they're laughing. Even and then like the apology just seemed very like, y'all play too much. Like you said a whole lot of nothing, because supposedly they went on another podcast where they did not laugh, and they came back and they said because it was not funny. So if you're uncomfortable, I've done the uncomfortable laugh where in hindsight is like I should have said something, but I'm little Miss Giggles. Like when I feel silence with giggles. I'm not
That
going to
wasn't a
like,
small uncomfortable
and that's
laugh.
what I'm
They were
saying. I'm not
cackling.
going to
They
like
were
throw
cackling
back
and throwing
and
their head
like,
back.
no.
They were
I'm going
cackling.
to
Don't tell me.
like.
Mm-mm. They were cackling.
So yeah, but again, one of those things like saying, as a black person, if you say there are no bodies in Atlanta, I think you've said a lot. You've said a whole lot, and
Your type
maybe
was not there, and that's saying what we all know that you're
because there's
saying.
all flavors. There's every if nowhere else in America, but in Atlanta, there's every single flavor of baddie that you are looking for. I stand 10 toes down on this.
The one they were looking for was not there now. Ah, come on. Anyway,
Because we don't, but
the particular one again, disappointed but not surprised to be honest.
they're men. They will do that. They do
They don't
usually
show
do
their
that.
ass. They'll show their ass eventually. Just let them talk and they will tell on themselves. Or laugh on themselves in this case. Anyway. Hi, well, I've gone off on a tangent, but it had to be said. So, why doesn't Korede tell Ayola that she has a crush on Tade? Because she never actually comes out and tells her. Does she?
I,
She doesn't.
Ayola asks her, but she never.
She
She
doesn't
tries to.
confirm.
Yes, but it's just like, I mean, come on now. We know those friends or those type of people. They are not asking to do anything with the information. It's not like you're going to say yes. They will stand down. One, she knows her sister. It wouldn't have made a difference to her whether she told her or not. Like the girl did not give a fuck. She wanted what she wanted in that moment, and that's all that it was. So I think she knew her sister, and there was no reason to confirm or deny, because she would have done what she wanted to do.
But Korede too, like, I'm sorry, you like the man, right? What do you think is going to happen? How is the relationship? Closed mouths don't get fed. Like, what is the fantasy that she had? Because if it was not Ayola, he could have met somebody else and been dating somebody else. You're there fantasizing
She would
about the
have
man
had,
every day.
but she would have handled that differently. I think it was because it was her sister.
But tell him that you like him.
Usually, you tell him, but that man did not see her. He did
He
not
did
see her.
though.
Did he? Did he see her as a colleague and a friend? I feel like he friend zoned her. He did not see her beyond, because she tried to warn him. And every time she opened her mouth, it was like, you know, you're jealous of your sister. How can you say that? And that's how you know that Ayola girl was a sociopath, because she knew her sister and knew how her sister moved, and said, yeah, she's going to say this and she's going to do that. So he's like, you're doing everything that she said you would do.
That's true. I forgot about that part. Ayola, like, it's one thing to be dating your sister's crush, but you're gonna be bad mouthing her to him after she has helped you cover up murders, girl. Yeah, no, that's psycho behavior.
No, the girl was psychotic. It was so
Yeah.
annoying. The book, that's what really annoyed me about the book, because it gave me feelings of Tom and Jerry. And I find as an adult, Tom and Jerry, Roadrunner are two shows that I don't like. I hate it. I did not like it as a child. Like, it's like, why couldn't he win just one time? One time.
Right. Right.
I don't like this underdog. Let the underdog win every now and again. it's not fair. Like, it's just always bad things happening. How is that entertaining?
So, do you think Tade was naive? Like he had not dated a lot of women? Because the way he was acting with Ayola, I'm like, bro, have some sense. And it's not like he's not described as an ugly man. Obviously, he's a doctor. That already puts him, gives him a lot
Ayo-
of points.
Ayola was just a mami water.
I mean, that's what it sounds like.
I just think that he was so mesmerized by her beauty and he could not think straight like a man.
Yeah. So, once again, Korede is called to come and save Ayola, but now it's a different context. It's Tade who has stabbed her, right? So Korede goes to his, I don't know if it's a house or an apartment, his home, and
Mhm.
she's like, what the hell is going on? And Tade's basically saying, she tried to stab me, and he's claiming self-defense, right? And of course, we'll never know the truth of what happened, but I believe him, unfortunately, as dumb as he was.
I do
Yeah.
believe him. And I think maybe in when his life flashed before his eyes, he remembered everything that Korede had told him, and that's how he was able to save himself.
Yes.
But he was dumb as a sack of rocks, man. It was
It
just so
was.
annoying. Like, you just meet this person, you're so infatuated. Her sister, who has known her whole life, is trying to help you and keeps telling you, bro, this ain't the move. This ain't the move. And you're just there doing vibes on vibes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to your point, I think if Corday had not warned him, he would have ended up like the others. So he
Yep.
probably, once the situation started getting to a certain point, he probably recalled everything that she said, and then, yeah, he stabbed her. She didn't die, but, they basically ruin his life. He loses his job, his license. And did he go to jail for a little bit?
It wasn't for long. Or did he have probation or something like that?
Yeah, something. Yeah, but he definitely lost his job and his medical license. And you know what? I didn't really feel bad for him because you were warned.
But yes, we have the patient Mukhtar who's in a coma and Korede. See, that part did not click for me because
Mm.
she was airing out her life to somebody in a coma. Now,
Mm.
you're a nurse. You know that even though somebody's in coma, that's the reason they encourage family members to talk to the person because they feel like the voice triggers, it keeps your brain moving, and it's one of like the things that they encourage people to do so that they can come back to this side of life. And you are there confessing all your crimes to this man. Like, sis, what is you thinking? You a nurse. You should know better. They said talk to him. They didn't say come and tell your family story to this
Mm.
man. But I think it also speaks to her loneliness. Like, she had nobody. Not her mother, not her sister. It doesn't really say that she has any friends. Because at some point she talks about Ayola and says Ayola doesn't have friends. She has minions. And so she she doesn't have friends and she resorts to spilling her life to this man who is in a coma, who eventually comes out of coma.
Yep.
And she's now like, oh shit. And trying to be coy and ask him, like, so what do you remember? And at first, she's not sure. But he tells her he remembers everything. And he starts asking, like, so what are you going to do about your sister? And they build this rapport because it looks like the reason his family did not visit him when he was in coma was they were waiting for him to die.
That's what
So
it
they could
sounds like.
so they could go back well with his money. Wait, was his brother messing with his wife?
No, I don't think so. That I think if
The
happened, I
day
missed it.
the wife came to attack him in the hospital with, I think his name was Abdul.
Mm.
And the wife is like screaming and going off and shouting. And the brother is standing there and doesn't say anything. And the wife finishes screaming and turns to his brother and says, let's go. And I was just like,
Maybe I missed that.
and
Okay.
he made a there's a statement he made referring to like sometimes people do something. And I was like, hmm. But it's
Hmm.
very clear his family did not want him to come back from this coma
They didn't.
because he upset a lot of plans. But Ayola and Korede and himself build this relationship because she's also able to come and stand up for him and like kick his family out of the room when they're doing too much. But he sort of becomes a conscience for her, or like asking her, what are you going to do? What choice are you going to make? And it sits heavy on her mind because when she has to talk to police about Tade, she says it at the end that she made a choice to save her sister. But I'm like, she made a fair choice because she warned Tade several times and he just did not listen.
Yeah, I don't feel bad for him. Sorry, sir. I mean, you were warned. So do you think Korede and Mukta, like, into the future beyond the book, do you think they ended up together? Because he said he was going to get a divorce.
I would hope not. He sounded old.
Did he sound old? Well, he did
He
have
had
an
a
adult son.
grandchild.
Yeah, you're right. I was, okay. No, because I'm like, okay, he's going to get a divorce. Like, he knows
Please.
her deepest, darkest secrets.
I am the romance person in this relationship. Where no, I did not get that.
I just wanted her to find love, I guess.
I did not get that at all. I really hope I liked her character. I wish she would stand up for herself.
Mm-hmm.
But I can empathize with her being the oldest daughter in an African family, and then in this broken African family where her dad was hitting her mom. And I think at some point she too had to, like the day her dad like hit her mom's head against the wall, they were the ones who had to come help their mother.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish she would stand up for herself, especially to her mother and her sister. But I can see where they're trauma bonded, and there's like the codependency, and she might never do it for herself. I hope she does. Even like if it was real life, I hope there was a future where she would stand up for herself. But at least she got her promotion at work, so hey, a win is a win.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's true. All right, so we've talked a little bit about the men already, right? The male characters in the book. Was a lot of them, kind of perpetuated stereotypes, right? Like you said, Tade kind of becomes a fool once he meets Ayo and gets into a relationship with her. The father is abusive emotionally, physically, like he's a cheater.
Also, a scammer. It sounded like his business dealings were never straight. It was giving his side a touch of femanism.
Yeah, it was. It was. I forgot about that. Yeah. And he was very concerned with appearances. Right? Corday mentions in one part of the book, like, the only time you could speak up or even misbehave just a little bit is when there was a visitor in the house. Because he would never yell or beat them in front of a visitor. So that was the only time you could breathe a sigh of relief.
Or when he was whipping Ayola because the boy came to visit her, and Korede was like, hey, if you hit her again, it's going to show and people will see. And that's what made him stop.
Yeah,
but
that's
I think
true.
Something that stands out, because it's a conversation I had recently, is there are things that happen in a home, even if not talked about, children notice. Because when this happens, they were still fairly younger. This had happened their whole lives. And they observed and they noticed these things as children. And so for her to notice as a teenager, to be able to know which buttons to push on her father to say, hey, don't beat her because it's going to show. Nobody told her that. That was from her observing. And so for people who always want to talk about, but they're a child or they are just children, children notice everything. They notice everything. They notice verbal, non-verbal cues, and they absorb it, and it colors the way they see the world. And so if you think that you're hitting or you're talking disrespectfully about people that they know, about the other parent, they're going to mirror whatever you said in sometimes, and that is going to influence the way they interact and engage with these other people.
Agree. And you know what's something to your point, that a characteristic that Ayola and the dad share, they're very charming. So when that boy came to visit Ayola, like the dad did not do the stereotypical thing of being very threatening towards the boy. No, he had a really nice conversation with him. Like, the boy left feeling like, even the next day at school, he even told her, wow, your dad is so cool.
It's so cool.
Like, that is psycho behavior.
And that's why I said Ayola was her father's child.
They both had that really charming quality. We talked about the corrupt police officers, but we didn't talk about the one who pulled. There's a scene where Corday is driving, and I don't know what traffic infraction she commits, but she gets pulled over by a cop, and she basically like has to bribe him, right, to continue on her way. And it's funny because when she first offers the amount of money, he acts like scandalized, right? He's At first I'm like, wait, is this really a stand-up guy? Like he's going to refuse? He's like, what? How dare you try to bribe an officer of the law? And then finally she begs him, and he's like, okay, give me the amount of money that is deserving of my position. And she's like, okay, she adds the money. And he's like, don't do that again. And he lets her go.
I thought you were going to say that you were surprised that he asked for more. Because
No.
I've definitely had situations in Cameroon where somebody is harassing me for something and they ask me, Sekwasa, what is that? As
The
per,
audacity.
yeah. Je vais faire quoi avec? What would I do with that? Like, ajoute, add it. So, like, it's happened to me several times. At the airport, I got a gift that had like Cameroon coffee and some snacks, and it had pepper. And you know, in Cameroon, they don't let you take food into the lounge, anyway, they don't let you take food on the plane. So he's searching my stuff. And he's like, oh, sequasa. But I was just like, it's a gift. Like, what is this? I'm like, it's a gift. He's like, you're not supposed to take that. He just said, put my money here. Sir, do I owe you money? He said, put my money here.
Wait, are you talking about the people who, when you're about to enter the
The
boarding
waiting
area?
room. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Those people?
He
Oh.
said, put my money. So that was like the first time I got back to Cameroon after college. I really wanted, it was a gift, and it meant a lot because of the person who gave it to me. So I wanted to take it. So I gave him the money. Today, anything that you find, I tell him, throw it. I nothing. If you want to shout, I'll just like, throw it. I'd forgotten something one day, it was seasoning. And they're like, oh, I said, throw it. She looked at me, I said, put it in the trash. Oh, you think I'm going to come and argue with you people over what? No.
That's insane. The only man who who had redeeming qualities throughout the book, Mukhtar, he was unconscious for a lot of the story. But when he, wakes up, even though, he knows this secret about Corday, like he ends up being a friend, right?
Yeah.
To her, like he did not react in a way that you would expect.
He didn't judge. Yeah, he didn't judge her. Yeah.
I really liked his character. Like he was not judgmental at all. He was kind of, I think he really appreciated. For her, it was kind of just a release, right? Coming into his room and talking, but it obviously helped him because he said, and like you said, that's why they encourage people to come and speak to coma patients. But his family said, fuck that. Call us when he flatlines.
They were sitting there waiting for the call to say, guys, come and say your final goodbyes.
Listen. Anyway. Okay, so overall, I really enjoyed this book. Like I said, I couldn't put it down. Like it's a thriller. And it's also there are some very annoying characters that will keep you like engaged when you're reading. So yeah, I definitely recommend.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was my I started reading it in 2020 and I stopped. It's not my genre. I read it because we were going to review, but I didn't read. I listened to the audiobook. And maybe because I listened to the audiobook, it made it I found a thing, like depending on who the narrator is for the audiobook, I feel like it sets the tone for me. And the author was Weruche Opia. She's a Nigerian actress who is a British Nigerian actress. She was in I May Destroy You with Michaela.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I haven't seen that.
She read it, and I think because it was her, obviously she pronounced the names correctly. I could listen to it a lot better than I could when I was reading. I don't like suspense. It plays with my nerves. Like I'm really anxious enough as is. I don't like books to stress me, but I'm happy that I pushed through, and maybe the audiobook was better than me reading it by myself. But yeah, it's a good book.
This would make a really good movie. I feel like even Nollywood, I mean, okay, I don't want to like speak disparagingly, but I feel like Nollywood, a good Nollywood producer, director could
Victor.
make a good movie out of this, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. Or
I
even
can
a
see it.
series, like I could see it, you know,
Yeah,
who has she killed this time?
true. It's like every episode she kills somebody else.
Okay. And we had another book of the month because, again, remember, we have been talking about grief throughout the month of September. Our other book of the month was Notes on Grief by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I didn't prepare any notes for us to discuss that, but hopefully, you know, the audience has taken some time to read that as well.
Yeah, I don't have any notes. I listened to audiobook again, and because it was Chimamanda reading it, you could feel every passion, like all the passion she has, because it's essentially her grieving the loss of her father, which ironically, her mother died less than a year later after her father passed. But she had written the book originally as an article. It was an article she published, I think, in the Atlantic, and then she made it more long form. But it's like a really personal account of navigating grief through, especially through COVID with lockdowns, siblings in different continents, and trying to plan African funeral with all the logistics and traditions, the heartless ones, the thoughtful ones, all involved. But there's something that really stood out, and I think we discussed it with one of our guests where we talked about, some of the things that people say. And until you experience it, like grief is one of those things where you cannot teach somebody. When you experience it, then it's like, that's what they were dealing with. My sister lost a friend a few years ago, and I remember her like going through, she just talking about her friend over and over. And when I lost my own friend, I had some message to say, I'm sorry if I did not understand what you were going through at that time, because I was just always your friend. But when I think about it, they worked together, they went on trips together, they had all these memories together, and he died suddenly. There are a lot of emotions and feelings that come up with that. And so Chimamanda talks about it in the book where she's talking about, the different messages people will send, like he's gone to a better place. Like when you're grieving, what does that do for you in
Exactly.
that moment? Or take hearts, you know, some of those things. So it was her basically just going through the grieving process. And I think if you've lost somebody near and dear to you and you've just experienced loss, it feels familiar and you can recognize yourself in different, like as she goes through the different phases and stages of grief.
I just thought of something as you were saying that the things that people say. If somebody has been sick for a while, right? The sentiment, oh, they're no longer in. Does that kind of resonate? They're not suffering
I
anymore?
I say it to make myself feel better. But I don't like, I wouldn't say it to people like the deceased family or close ones.
Mm-hmm.
I said it to my daughter a few weeks ago when her kindergarten teacher passed, and she looked at me like I was crazy. It did not make sense to her. But I don't, in that moment, when somebody's just like in the thick of grief, I don't think it makes a difference.
Not helpful, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Our October book of the month is The Crown of Thorns by Linus Asong. Again, listen, that's one of my favorite books of all time. It is hilarious in many ways, and it touches on a lot of things that we have talked about this podcast, and just a lot of relevant things like colonialism, Christianity, and how the missionaries, viewed traditional. In this case, it's set in a fictional village in Cameroon, but how the white missionaries viewed traditional African spiritual beliefs, how certain Africans adopted a Western white supremacist mindset, and how colonization, there was this kind of class difference that I don't know if it existed before, because you have this Western educated Africans and then you have kind of the uneducated ones. They're
No.
not educated in the Western sense, who, so you have this difference now, and you
Right.
have one group of people looking down on the other. So I love that book, and yeah, we'll definitely go into it.
No, I think before this is just me getting too deep into stuff. But before colonization, I would say like village structure was like chief, elders, council, and those type of things, which a lot of those titles were passed down in families. So you have families that were respected. And then education now, or Western education became like a leveler. Maybe families that had been oppressed for a very long time, this was their chance to shine. My dad told me a story recently that his father was in the police force and he had somebody was maybe a subordinate who was doing something out of line. And when he chastised this man, the man said, "We'll meet in the village," because he had a title and my grandfather didn't have a title at the time. And he was basically like, "We'll meet in Bali." So, and I think that speaks to that time period because they were definitely of age right at the cusp of like independence and colonization and all those different structures that had been introduced.
Yeah, it's a really good book. So yeah, pick up your copy, and we'll be talking about that, at the end of October / beginning of November. If you are not already subscribed and following us on all the things, please do that expeditiously. Two Bees in a Pod on Two Bees in a Pod on YouTube, Two Bees Pod on Instagram, and then your favorite podcast platform wherever you're streaming. Tell a friend to tell a friend. And until next time,
Do good, turn bad, which means you do a good deed and it becomes a bad thing. I mean, that's self explanatory now. You went to go and help somebody. Now, say your friend comes and says that her husband is beating her or doing something, you go there, they can shoot you, bundle the two of you up. Meanwhile, you were just trying to help your friend. So, yeah, sometimes you gotta do risk assessments before you want to go and do.
when you started saying that about the friend and the husband, it reminded me of like, so a woman whose husband has been cheating on her, she'll come and cry to her friends. Her friends will comfort her and take up the cause, right? Where it's like, and I'll be one of those friends, right? Insult them
No,
not
no,
very
no.
well. Like, listen, a couple of weeks later, sometimes it's days, they're back together. You want to say something now about the man, now you're the bad guy.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's it right there. Meanwhile, we're trying to be a supportive friend. Oh. Anyway, I'm going to put it to you. Why should our listeners read this book?
They should read this book, My Sister, the Serial Killer, because it is a thrilling story. Like I said, it sucks you in, right? I wouldn't call it's an enjoyable book, but in a kind of very anxiety filled way. I think it also touches on some relevant topics that we mentioned today: colorism, right? Pretty privilege and things like that. And of course, it has a little sprinkle there of police corruption. So it touches on a lot of topics that are relevant not only in African society, but wider society in general. Yeah, it's a really good read. Highly recommend.